Hi, I'm Rebecca, and today I want to talk about Scleralfil. So, Scleralfil is a buffered, preservative-free saline solution designed for rinsing and filling scleral lenses. It's sold in a 10 ml vial, looks like this, packed 30 to a compact little box, looks like this. And I want to start by talking about the packaging a little bit first. Then we'll get into the whole buffered preservative-free saline thing. And then we'll talk about how it compares to other preservative-free saline products. Now, I hardly ever rave about a product, but I just have to say this is the most beautifully designed saline vial anybody ever imagined. Honestly, Bausch outdid themselves when they came up with that thing. It is head and shoulders above every other brand for user friendliness. I find it quite strong, but it's easy to open. Just quick twist, comes straight off. You don't have to strain like some of the other ones. The saline doesn't squirt out if you twist it a little too hard. It's flat on the bottom, so it stands up easily on its own. The opening is really wide, so when you squeeze it out, you're very unlikely to get any bubbles on the lens. It's really nice, so I don't know how they did it, but they did a great job. It's a 10 ml vial, which for reference is twice the volume of an Adipac or a Lacropure. And like all preservative-free salines, it's either going to be too much or too little for you, and that's just an unfortunate part of the reality of being a scleral lens user. Next, what is a buffered saline and why might you care? Not everyone will. So saline is just sodium chloride and water, right? And plain saline is naturally acidic. The pH is low and doesn't necessarily stay stable. And for many purposes, a little acidity is not going to hurt you. But if you have dry or sensitive eyes and you're filling a scleral lens with an acidic solution and that lens is holding the solution against your eyes all day long, then acidity can make things less comfortable or it can cause lens fogging, which to some of us is a pretty big deal. So if we want the pH of the saline to match the pH of our eyes for kind of best performance and comfort, or at least come close, then we have to use saline that has extra ingredients that raise the pH and stabilize it. So for those of you that are feeling a little bit nerdy, Scleralfil is a borate buffered saline. The ingredients that they add in order to raise the pH are boric acid and sodium borate. And when those ingredients are used for that purpose, we call them buffers. So now let's talk a little bit about what it means to be a preservative-free saline. You get to have the preservative-free lecture. We always talk about preservative-free as though it's some kind of virtue, right? Like with our artificial tears. As though preservatives are somehow evil and the companies that make things with preservatives are evil too. It's not really true. Preservatives are there for a reason. Preservatives kill bad things that can hurt you. And of course, the trade-off is that depending how you use something with a preservative, the preservative itself could hurt you. So it's all a matter of balancing your risks, right? Now, in the case of scleral lens filling solutions, we always use preservative-free solutions, or we certainly should do at least, because of the specific way that we're using the saline, and because specifically of how it gets held against the eyes and for how long. We don't want to hold anything potentially toxic to the cornea against our eyes all day. By the same token, though, we also don't want to hold anything potentially contaminated against our eyes all day long. So you purchase a liquid, say, like Scleralfil or any of the other brands, and it has no preservatives. You're using preservative-free saline to fill your scleral lens or lenses. And when you open it, it starts out sterile, right? But the moment you open it, it's not going to stay sterile. It's like driving a car off the lot. All of a sudden, it just lost $8,000 of Blue Book value. So you see the hole on the end of this. You squeeze out saline and you let go, and it sucks back air. You touch the tip of this or any part of it by accident to anything, your fingers, your lens case, your lens, your eyelashes, and it's sucking bacteria into the bottle. This is why containers like this or any of the other brands are designed to be used and tossed, because when they sit around, or when you plug that little hole with some random piece of plastic, or wrap it in plastic wrap, or transfer the saline to a different container that has a screw top lid, or if you do any other of the 10,000 crazy things that I read about on Facebook every day, you are giving an open invitation to bacteria into that little vial. Maybe say, why should I care about bacteria? I mean, what's little dirt between friends? So once again, the saline you put in your scleral lens stays there for a long time. It will eventually work its way out. Some of your natural tears will work their way in. But do you really want to knowingly hold bacteria against your eye all day long? I also just want to point out, poor scleral lens hygiene habits, including reusing preservative-free saline vials, are a potential risk factor for something called acanthamoeba keratitis, which is truly scary stuff. And we all get to make our own informed choices about preventable risks. So at this point, I figure you've been warned. My real point here, though, I'm going to prolong the lecture ever so slightly. If you care about your eye health enough to invest in a preservative-free saline in the first place, do yourself a favor and also care about your eye health, your cornea health enough to respect the manufacturer's instructions for preservative-free product safety. And I know we all love to hate on Big Pharma, but please consider the possibility that this is a safety issue, not just another way to wangle more dollars out of your pocket. If you want to learn more about preservative-free packaging and bacteria, I would encourage you to look for a Dry Eye Foundation presentation about this on the video blog at one of the foundation's websites. It's biologiceyedrops.org. I'll put a link in the notes on the YouTube. Last, let's talk about how Scleralfil compares to other preservative-free salines for filling sclerals. And first, we'll just talk about the buffered ones. So as I said, Scleralfil is a borate buffered saline. The other saline that is very similar in type, or really the same ingredients, is Purelens, which is also a borate buffered saline. It comes in 4-ounce and 2-ounce sizes. This is the 4-ounce bottle. The difference, obviously, the size. When you get this much, and it's got to be used up within 2 weeks or less if your doctor advises it, and there are reasons why they might, then you gotta need a lot of saline to go through this in a matter of days or a couple weeks. So this one's going to be useful for those who need to do lots of rinsing. And that might be you when you're new to scleral lenses, but not later. Or for some of us, we just do a lot of rinsing long term, like rinsing off cleaning solutions before putting our lenses in peroxide so it won't foam over and all that. So same stuff, different size. The most similar product overall to Scleralfil is going to be Neutrophil, which looks like this. Neutrophil and Scleralfil are both buffered, and they both come in 10 ml vials, just differently shaped. Neutrophil has slightly different contents. It's got electrolytes, and it's buffered with phosphates rather than borate buffers. And in general, I think this is a better saline. Not everyone needs the saline of this quality, but I do think that this Neutrophil really is the best one on the market, even though the vial isn't quite as user-friendly. Every other type of preservative-free saline on the market now is both a different type and a different size than these two guys. We've got the Lacropure, we've got Adipac, and all the other kind of Adipac lookalikes. Those are unbuffered, and they're in 5 ml vials. And if for some reason you want to avoid buffers in saline altogether, but you'd really like to keep the pH as high as possible, to the best of my knowledge, Lacropure is the highest pH of the unbuffered salines. So what about me? How do I relate to Scleralfil? Well, I like Neutrophil best as a saline, but I like Scleralfil's packaging best, and the Saline is perfectly adequate for me. Most of the time, I can't really tell the difference in performance between these. I treat them as interchangeable, so I stick with Scleralfil like when I'm traveling because I just like the containers better. If I go through a rougher patch with my eyes, I switch to Neutrophil just on the chance that it's going to help a little more. But I can't emphasize enough that people are all over the map with this stuff. Some people just don't seem to ever notice the pH of a saline, and if it's not hurting you, why bother paying extra for a buffered saline if you don't need it? On the other hand, if you're using an unbuffered saline and adding some kind of artificial tear, that gets expensive. So you may find it's actually cheaper to switch to one of the buffered ones. And that's all I have to share today about Scleralfil.